As much as people are hating on DC, I think there's a lesson in there about being yourself. See, I love superhero movies. And ever since I was a kid, DC has always been my favorite. Not in the, oh yeah, I saw that movie once growing up, but like, I binged them religiously. I read the comics before I could even understand their themes. I had the swag, the toys. I freaking dressed like the bat on my time off. And to this day, I still can't deny that geekiness because I loved Batman growing up. And getting older, but that doesn't really change. But having a channel where I dissect like pretentious movies, indie movies, movies that really have a lot of surface level to it, a lot of layers to it, I many times get called out because I'm not supposed to talk about those movies considering that they're two different entities because I have all my comic collection in the back. Now, I don't have a problem mixing the two. I love my indie films and I love my superhero big blockbuster films. The problem is when I can't defend the movie that I've been waiting my entire life for. See, I know that there's a big fan base for it and they're gonna love it no matter what, and that's opinions. You know, if you don't like it, then that's a differing opinion from mine. I'm glad that you liked it. I wish I did too. As a quick recap, I thought Man of Steel was fine. I didn't hate it. I didn't love it. I've always been Team Batman, so to me, Superman has always been the opposing force. It's been the White Sox to my Cubs. Batman v Superman I found to be very interesting. Is it memeable? Yes. Like, I've never understood this idea where you don't feel self-assured enough to like a movie unless everybody else does. That's completely fine. I've had those videos that I make where someone's like, wow, I really learned something from you. Then they find out that I enjoyed Batman v Superman and all of a sudden everything I have to say is invalid. Look, you can like a movie and still see the problems in it. I think Batman v Superman is cheesy, obviously. It has its narrative problems. By that third act, I have absolutely no idea what's going on with all that CGI, but even though people critiqued it super harshly for some of the same things that other Marvel movies did as well, I liked it. It wasn't that big of a deal. And the thing stands that, you know what? Superheroes have been around for like 75 years. I'm okay with them changing up a bit because they're gonna reboot him eventually. I'm cool. Make Superman, you know, someone who is doubting himself. Make Batman some dude who's just gone off the edge because of all the bad things that he's seen. It's just a take on these superheroes. I made a video on a BVS scene, so for more of my thoughts, you can check that out, or another one on Suicide Squad, because that one just, I can't stand Suicide Squad. Of course, there was then Wonder Woman that taught people how to respect women, which leads us then to Justice League, which I feel is a Marvel movie. Now, I'm going to get into spoilers for why, so warning, but before even that, there's a simple breakdown. Joss Whedon directed the biggest Marvel movies. He also had a hand in all of Phase 2 when the characters developed. So it's safe to say that what we like about Marvel comes from Joss Whedon. So if Joss Whedon directed and also has a writing credit for Justice League, that means that he's bringing what he gave to Marvel and he's bringing it over here to DC. So it's literally like it's a Marvel movie, what they turned Justice League into. Now, that's not to say that that's inherently a bad thing. I think it all just depends. But the way that I'm seeing it, what I'm trying to make with this video, the case I'm trying to make is that to me, DC is like those popular styles, you know, the whatever is trending, the hypebeast, where they're just hopping on something in particular that's big right now, but it doesn't really have anything to do with what they were originally building up. Let me explain. The other DC movies had a style. You can hate it. I hate some of what they went with too, but at least they had the balls to give it to their directors and see out their vision for the most part. These two right here are definitely Snyder-centric. Jenkins' directing is what elevated Wonder Woman to become what it was. And I was prepared for Suicide Squad because I saw Sabotage and what he did with that movie.
Look at you, with your fucking 48% body fat and you scrounged little bastard.
Now, in case you don't know everything surrounding Justice League, Zack Snyder got around to like 80-85% of the movie that was completely shot before he had to leave, considering his daughter's suicide. So he entrusted, and the producers entrusted, Joss Whedon to come in and finish that 15-20% that could really change a movie, but also handle the reshoots that can completely change a movie, especially when they wanted to add more banter. Now let's get one thing clear. I can't speak for Joss. I can only observe. And what I observe is his little Twitter rants where he seems to blame everyone else for him not being funny or making a point when he's not being funny or making a point. I can observe how he ended up becoming a crybaby over at Marvel, and that's what seems to be driving him over here to Justice League because he dipped on them. But it's the things like not really promoting the movie, which is out in theaters right now, which he was supposed to help a grieving man finish, because it seems like he's upset that it didn't fully become what he wanted it to be. I mean, liking a tweet seems like a minuscule thing, and it really is, but when it's about the villain in a movie you directed, a villain that's the creation of a grieving man you were supposed to help with, it's kind of bogus. I know that's a small thing. Don't get me wrong. I know that it's such a minuscule thing, but when you add all these little minuscule things, when you see what seems to be his attitude, and on top of that, the big changes that he made, and I'll have all those links down below so you can read them. I'm not saying that the movie was going to be a masterpiece, but it's kind of bogus to change all of these things. For example, you have the switching of composers, meaning that you get rid of the person who Snyder originally wanted, so it's like you're not really helping the person. You're creating your own vision. Regardless of the fact that I love Elfman's score, and I'm happy that it's in there. I personally don't like all of the banter that's injected into the movie because they have these like dark setups and then out of nowhere someone randomly, awkwardly cracks a Peter Parker punchline and it makes absolutely no sense. Does it work for a character like Barry? Sure. But making Batman look like a punk who gets nervous around women when he's supposed to be a playboy? Bruh. Even Gal Gadot, who goes from setting up this Wonder Woman character back to her booty shots from Fast and the Furious is bogus because I don't even mind those shots. I'm completely fine with those. The difference is that you're making me side with people, and if you know me, with all of this over-exaggerating, hypersexualized things, I'm not a part of all that. And even I can say that these booty shots were a little over the top because the difference between her being a seductress in Fast and the Furious and her being the warrior that she is in Wonder Woman shows a different character that you can't go back and do what you did to Black Widow in Avengers Age of Ultron because it just messes up the character. I've just always wanted a live-action Justice League movie, and I hate that it didn't turn out great because it seems like a dude wanted to take over and have his vision be the same thing. And I know that there will be fans out there who are gonna love it. They're diehards, they'll love it. I wish I could too. It just confuses me because if you like the previous ones, then you would see how different this is. There's supposed to be this big vision that Snyder had, right? Whether you agree with him or not, this big vision that he had, why would he go from a dark movie to a darker movie to all of a sudden this cartoon? It feels like it's Warner Bros. If they're not messing themselves up, if they're not chopping up their own movies, if they're not hiring creatives who don't really fit in, it's them falling into peer pressure on another company who, this isn't even an opinion anymore, is financially doing better than they are. Pretty much, DC has become that kid who pretends to be something that he's not in order to fit in. It's like they have these directors who have a style. They have a vision. They're like those kids who wear suits to school who you know are different than everybody else. You know that there are going to be people who are going to make fun of them, but to me, unless you're rebooting the entire franchise completely, I'd rather them go through that. I'd rather them be different, awkward, at least be themselves instead of copying whatever's popular at the moment just so they can fit in. Because that's not cool.